Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of September 27th. I mean, not 27th, 17th, my bad on that one, to the 23rd, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And we got 4 stories to cover, including one that actually broke, even though this video will be up on Saturday. This broke on Thursday on the latest on the Microsoft Activision deal, as it seems that the CMA is moving towards being more in favor of this deal happening though. We'll also be talking about the Xbox leak that basically happened and kind of revealed a lot of very interesting information though. We'll also be talking about the Unity engine and how it looks like the folks at Unity it looks like they're walking back on some of the controversy that they created last week. And an interesting credit, or someone is basically spotted on Baldur 3 that works for Nintendo, and this has led to some people wondering, could Baldur's Gate 3 make its way to the Switch or the Switch successor? If you're interested in where I got the source of these information though, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. Excuse me. But before we get started, what I like to talk about is the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. The first one is, according to the series creator of the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake though, they're basically reporting that the game progress is still going very well with that game though, despite the fact that we haven't really heard or seen as much about this though. It certainly does look interesting, and hopefully we'll see more of that game coming out, although lately Square Enix has been making some decisions. We don't know for certain if they will continue, with this HD 2D remake kind of a setting that they have been known for though, but so far it seems to be doing fine. But in terms of the next main entry in the Dragon Quest series, it sounds like things are kind of quiet for that one for the time being, and we may be waiting a little bit while to hear any more information about that one. We also learned the upcoming limited run of the Jurassic Park video games have now added the Sega Genesis games, the original Sega Genesis version of Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park Rampage edition though. Certainly nice. It adds more to the collections, as it adds to the NES, Super NES, and Game Boy Jurassic Park games though. I am looking forward to trying this out. I do remember renting Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo. Never had a Sega Genesis, but I remember going to someone's house and seeing them have Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis and all. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these games play compared to where they were, back when they originally came out at around the time, Jurassic Park, I think it was like either 93 or 94 when that movie came out though. We also learned that Square Enix wants to upgrade some of their existing IPs to AAA status though. This was sort of in an investor's talk and everything like that, as he seemed to be somewhat moving away of doing making new IPs or anything like that though. I mean, this is okay to some extent, and I would open the door to the opportunity of maybe games like Miramasi Samurai Legend or Parasite Eve getting the treatment though. But at the same time, this also comes off the heels of reports about Final Fantasy 16, as there have been some back and forth of whether or not that game has been a success or not, and the fact that Square Enix has lost a lot of money. So it'll be very interesting to see if we see other IPs, like Front Mission, Parasite Eve and all, go get the AAA type of experience though. Continuing with Square Enix, it has now been reported that Octopath Traveler 2 will be coming to the Xbox and Windows PC though. Certainly nice to see this game come to that systems, even though I have it for the Nintendo Switch and all. It was a bit odd why they didn't bring it to the system in the first place when the game Octopath Traveler came out. It came to the PS4 and all, but the original one never did. So it just was a bizarre decision on Square Enix's part. But nevertheless, it is coming to Xbox and Windows PC. However, there is no word at this time whether or not they will be coming to Game Pass or not, considering the first Octopath Traveler did make its way to Game Pass and all. We also saw a new footage of Suda51 and Sweeney65 have revealed the so-called Hotel Barcelona that they announced, I think, like maybe a couple years ago. We saw the trailer. It looks like sort of a 2D style of a trailer. It kind of reminds me of one of the scenes or one of the 2D levels in Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, to be exact. So I am very curious about this title, though. It's coming to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox, I think PS5, Xbox Series X and S. No word at this time for if it will be coming to Game Pass or not. And so far, doesn't seem to be any announcement of a Switch version or anything like that. Although it is possible it could make its way over to the Switch successor. That certainly is not out of the realm of possibility. But in either case, I'm liking what I'm seeing right now. I am a fan of Suda51, so I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for this title and all. And last but not least, there has been reports that Nintendo America has did a job listing, and they're looking for data engineers for the DLSS. And many are speculating that this confirms that DLSS will be in Nintendo's next system, which I wouldn't be completely surprised considering the relationship NVIDIA and Nintendo currently have right now, especially with the success that the Nintendo Switch has been having. But at the same time, it does make you kind of wonder if, assuming this is true though, what kind of version of DLSS will it be? Will it be the type of version that has been used for, PC gaming? Or are we looking at something along the lines of the possibility of something custom made for this Switch successor, maybe incorporate certain elements from DLSS that's used for PC and all, but designed specifically for this Switch successor and all. So it kind of remains to be seen, but it does sound more and more likely that DLSS will be used in the Switch successor and all. And then the movie and TV one, and this one I only have one though, is that Netflix showed off the trailer for the upcoming Onimusha series that they will be premiering, I believe, this November. Judging by what they're seeing so far, I will say, excuse me, I like what I'm seeing though, but I'm still kind of hesitant to be exact. And this has to do with, in terms of Netflix adaptation of Capcom games, it hasn't really been, I would say, a huge success or anything like that. Dragon Dogma got mixed response though. The Resident Evil didn't exactly, or the live action one didn't exactly go over too well or anything like that. So we'll see how this one does though. It does look promising though, and I'm hoping it is a success. And I do hope that this opens the door for Capcom to consider bringing back the Onimusha series. I mean, I would love to see Onimusha 2, 3, and 4 ported over, especially to the Nintendo Switch though, and I would absolutely be down with a brand new entry if they ever decide to do another entry in the Onimusha series or not. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part and the movie TV show part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Baldur's Gate 3 possibly coming to Nintendo's platform and all. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware about Baldur's Gate 3 has been out for a while though. The game first released on PC via early access before the main game came out. We know the game is currently on the PS5, and they are basically getting the game to the Xbox Series X and S. However, one change that they made to it is they removed the multiplayer aspect in order to get the game to run on the X and S, mostly due to that there were some issues running it on the multiplayer part on the Series S though. But the game certainly has received positive reviews, and it seems a lot of consumers like it, and many believe that the game could be Game of the Year, and I certainly do think it has a good chance to get nominated though. I'm not sure if it will win or not, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that Baldur's Gate 3 could win Game of the Year. Now, as far as whether or not this game was going to come to the Nintendo Switch or not, I would say, to me, I won't rule out, certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, but I don't deny, given the fact that they had to struggle to some degree to get the game running on the Series S, mostly on the multiplayer side, I do think that serious compromises would have had to be made if they wanted to get Baldur's Gate 3 on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, we've seen impossible ports make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. Games like Doom, Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein 2, and even Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, one done by Saber Interactive, the other one's done by Panic Button, which I will give those developers credit for actually pulling it off and managing to bring those games over to the Nintendo Switch, but there's no denying the fact that compromises certainly had to be made in order for those games to make their way over to the Nintendo Switch, and I would feel like that would probably be the same thing with Baldur's Gate 3. If they were bringing it to the Switch, there would have to be serious compromises. However, it does seem to indicate that someone is being credited in it that works with Nintendo, and that has led to speculation to the possibility it could make its way over to the Nintendo platform, specifically the Switch successor. In an article published on Game Reactor, this is what it has to say. It says, quote, Baldur's Gate 3 is the RPG of the year. Depending on who you ask, it might be just up there with the Great and the Gene. We've seen the game jump to PS5, and before the year is out, it'll be on the Xbox Series X and S as well. Again, no word if it will be coming to Game Pass or not. That remains to be seen at this time. However, in continuing on, new rumors on the install-based forum points to it coming to a Nintendo platform as well. As posted by user Astro Gamer, there is a special thanks credit to Estua Isra. I apologize, I'm not saying the name correctly though. But it says, in Baldur's Gate 3, as Larson has worked with Nintendo getting Divinity Original Sin 2 on the Switch in the past, it's possible the studio's latest game could be ported as well. It's highly unlikely that a Switch version of Baldur's Gate 3 is coming. Larson, if I'm saying the street name correctly, struggled porting the game onto the Xbox Series S for a while, so we're doubtful they'll be able to work the magic required to get the game on the outdated console. With the Switch successor aiming for a 2024 release by the looks of things, though, we could see Baldur's Gate 3 on a Nintendo platform as early as next year. Now, as I mentioned, though, there's been no official confirmation or anything like that. So a lot of this information should be taken with an absolute grain of salt. And as I said earlier, I do believe if they were to bring it to the Nintendo Switch, there would have to be very serious compromises to make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. That being said, though, we have heard reports how some developers felt like they missed the train in terms of bringing their games to the Switch and are looking more and more bringing them over to the Switch successor. So to me, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that Baldur's Gate 3 could technically make its way to the Switch successor. If it does, how long we have to wait for it, that remains to be seen. Obviously, right now they are working on, any of the patches for Baldur's Gate 3 to porting the game to Xbox Series X and S. So if a Nintendo version is going to happen, most likely it will be when Nintendo releases their next system. So I do kind of admit, though, I think it's very unlikely we'll see it come to the Nintendo Switch, though, the Switch right now, though. Still, I'm definitely not down with the idea of this coming to the Switch successor, nor am I against the idea of, with recent rumors coming out that the Yakusuka series could make this way over to the Switch successor, though. It will be very interesting to see if this report is true, how the game is going to look and run on the Switch successor, especially if the rumors about the report of DLSS being in the Switch successor is also true as well. So it's certainly going to be very interesting to see if this does come to a Nintendo platform or not. So overall, I would say Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is very unlikely to come to the Nintendo Switch, though. I mean, they could surprise us, but I don't expect that it will come to the Nintendo Switch. But as far as the Switch successor go, I think there is a good chance we could see it come to the Switch successor and all. But like always, this is a rumor at this time, so we'll have to wait until we get official confirmation and all. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with Unity Engine and the folks behind it, basically backtracking after last week's big, controversy that they created. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at a situation surrounding Unity, particularly the Unity engine, and apparently it seems as though it has sort of somewhat changed course, to be exact. Now, last week Unity excuse me excuse me, I'm sorry. Last week, Unity basically put out a change in terms of the policy, in terms of what they would be doing starting in January 2024. And well, let's just say that policy did not go over well with a lot of developers. The changes that they were going to make was going to have major impact for a lot of these smaller developers, to be exact. It got to a point that basically we saw some developers boycott and said that they will not be using Unity, to taking their games off the storefront that uses Unity, to their stock really taking a hit, to even the CEO selling some of the stock before this announcement was basically made. This led to a huge amount of backlash, and Unity sort of had to respond to this and all. Well, it turns out to be Unity has sort of made some changes to basically how they are going to handle their install feed and everything like that, and it seems to try to undo some of the damage that they did and all, and really, pissed off a lot of developers. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads, quote, "Last week, the software development company announced plans to charge developers every time a game that uses its Unity engine is installed. Starting in January 2024, the proposed Unity runtime fee would apply to games that meet a minimum revenue threshold and have passed a minimum lifetime install count." Following a huge backlash from game developers on Sunday, Unity issued an apology and said it plans to make changes to the policy which would communicate in the coming days. According to Bloomberg, Unity stands for reform of the tentative change to the policy during an all-hands meeting on Monday. This includes limited fees to 4% of game revenues over $1 million. Install counted towards reaching the threshold will no longer be retroactive. Installation will no longer be tracked by proprietary tools. Instead, Unity will rely on users to self-report the data. I don't think there's any version of this that would have gone down a whole lot differently than what happened, Unity CEO John Riccitiello claimed during today's meeting. It's a massive transformation change to our business model. However, he acknowledged, I think we could have done a lot of things a lot better. Last week, Unity closed True Office and canceled a planned town hall meeting following what was reported as a credible death threat. Now, before I begin talking about this, I do want to say that if there's one part I will condemn on this, and that is the death threat, though. That, I think, was absolutely unnecessary and should never happen. You shouldn't basically issue a death threat like that. So I absolutely outright condemn that, to be exact. And whoever did that should be held accountable for their actions and behavior. So just to be clear, I do not support the death threat in any way, and no one should absolutely support the death threat at all. That being said, though, the backlash I do think was justifiable, and Unity absolutely deserved the criticism and the backlash because of what they were trying to do and all. As far as whether or not this will undo the damage that happens, though, that remains to be seen. It seems as though not everyone was happy with what Unity did, and we don't know if this is to try to bend the fence or not, though. So yeah, I think Unity has a lot of their work cut out to try to undo some of the damage or what happened last week when they made that policy change that did not sit very well or not. I mean, for some developers, this may not be a bad thing since they made this change, but for others, it could be, you know what, it's too little, too late. So time will ultimately tell whether or not these changes are good or not that they made, though, and whether or not they can win back some of the trust that that Unity may have lost following last week's debacle and how they handled the whole situation. So overall, it seems as though Unity is trying to undo the damage that have happened last week. Whether or not this change to their policy will help or hurt them. However, that remains to be seen at this time, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with a major leak from Microsoft, particularly with Xbox, that apparently was not supposed to be shown to the public and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my Two Cents video, and this one has to do with a Xbox leak, and it's a pretty big one though. So most of you are probably aware though, a leak document came out. That this was documents that was shown during the Microsoft versus the FTC trial though, that apparently showed a lot of very interesting information though. Now it didn't show anything like something like a personal, but stuff that Microsoft was going to be looking at, what they were going to be doing in the future, and stuff they may have said in the past, to be exact. Now, at first, many speculated that this was basically the FTC's doing, and that many felt like the FTC was retaliating against Microsoft and everything like that. And some even questioned if there was going to be legal ramifications. However, it was later reported that wasn't the case, and apparently it seems that Microsoft was actually the one responsible. The FTC later denied this, and the judge in the case confirmed that Microsoft provided the court documents with a link to an unredacted document in question, which it then uploaded to the internet page described by the case. So apparently it was on their part, on Microsoft's part. So what was revealed about all this information? Well, there were several things that were revealed on this though, and there have been several articles about it. Some of it is basically, it basically was that Microsoft was considering buying Nintendo. Spencer wrote, quote, "At some point, getting Nintendo would be a career moment." He speculated that the Japanese game giant could become more open to acquisition offers in the future due to the changing pressure on its board of directors. It just takes a long time for Nintendo to realize that their future exists off of their own hardware. He wrote, a long time. They also mentioned that Microsoft thought about purchasing Valve and Warner Brothers Games. Right now, given where Nintendo is at the moment though, I seriously doubt Nintendo is going to be all up for sales though. I mean, given how well the Switch has done to them, combining with the success that the Super Mario Brothers movie has done at the box office and Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios in Hollywood, I don't foresee a situation where Nintendo is going to be for sale. Maybe at some point down the road, maybe 30, 40, or 50 years from now, things could technically change. But right now, where Nintendo is, it's unlikely that they're going to be they're going to be for sale or anything like that, though. Other things to mention was that Bethesda, it could be working on a Oblivion remaster, along with a Fallout 3 remaster as well. It also mentioned the possibility that a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo, a Dishonored 3. So that's what was mentioned in the slide. Others points out that some comments like Spencer basically saying, publishers lost their mojo, or they were slow to react to the disruption of digital storefronts like Steam, the shop build, and Xbox and PlayStations though. They also points out some documents showed basically how they had an emergency meeting to figure out the gap of its release schedule after realizing Starfield would not make holiday 2022. They also mentioned how they expected a Red Dead Redemption 2 refresh, which obviously never happened. They wanted to get on Game Pass. They mentioned how 3/4 of Xbox gamers had a Series S though at the time, and most of that may have to do with the fact that at that time though it was difficult to get a PS5 or even an Xbox Series X at the moment compared to where it is right now. They also talked about Microsoft dramatically underestimating the success of Baldur's Gate 3. However, another person on X, formerly known as Twitter, pointed out that so did everyone else, and even the developers underestimated the success as well. So that certainly was sort of interesting indeed. It also points out Phil Spencer was not impressed with PS5 reveal. Accidentally got an exclusive Sega game that was available. The RPG Like a Dragon was available on the Xbox Series X, but not PS5. So I was kind of surprised how this series was associated with PlayStation. It points out that the Xbox Series X might go all digital in 2024, and it showed a slide of basically this Xbox Series refresh under the name Brooklyn, though. It also points out a fancy new controller to it, though, basically showing different things like haptic feedback and other stuff as well, though, and also repairs and dismantle, though. It also points out that Microsoft sees its next Xbox as a cloud hybrid machine, though, to be exact. So a lot of this information came out. Of course, eventually, though, Phil Spencer had to respond to this, though, and addressing a memo on this matter. This is what he had to say. Quote, "Today, several documents submitted in a court proceeding related to our proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard were unintentionally disclosed. I know this is a disappointment, even if many of those documents are well over a year and our plans have evolved. I also know we all take the confidentiality of our plans and our partners' information very seriously. This leak obviously is not us living up to that expectation. We will learn from what happens and be better going forward. We all put incredible amount of passion and energy into our work, and this is never how we wanted that hard work to be shared with the community. That said, there's so much more to be excited about, and when we're ready, we'll share the real plans with our players. In closing, I appreciate all the work that you poured into Team Xbox to surprise and delight our players. In the days and weeks ahead, let's stay focused on what we can control, continue the amazing success of Starfield, the upcoming launch of the incredible and accessible Forza Motorsport, and continue to build games, service, and devices that millions of players can enjoy." So obviously, this is sort of a really big boo-boo on Microsoft's part, though. But to me, a lot of this stuff, I'm not really sure is stuff. Some of it is kind of stuff we kind of knew for a while, and some of it isn't. Well, I will say a lot of it is certainly interesting, though, but it remains to be seen if a lot of this stuff will actually happen or not. I mean, as it is mentioned, though, things could have changed. I mean, maybe we won't get this Xbox refresh or this digital-only Xbox in 2024 next year. I mean, that's a possibility. Maybe those lists of games may not actually happen at all, or maybe push a little bit later due to, you know, COVID and everything like that, though. I mean, I'm not saying a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo isn't going to happen, or a Dishonored 3 or anything like that, though, but again, I do admit things could change, so a lot of the stuff may not happen at all. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. It could happen, though. I mean, I certainly would like to see a Dishonored 3. I certainly would like to see a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo, though. Hell, I would like to see an Evil Within 3, for crying out loud. But I mean, a lot of the stuff is interesting that I read, but not completely shocking at all. So for me, I just think, yeah, this is a boo-boo, though. We don't know how much damage this will do to Microsoft or Xbox or not. I'm not sure it's going to do a huge amount of damage or anything like that, but clearly there may have to be a change in terms of how they handle these documents and everything like that. And for the record, I'm pretty sure there are documents Nintendo and Sony don't want the public to find out and everything like that. So overall, this certainly was very interesting to see these document leaks, though. I mean, some of the stuff in there, like I said, is interesting, but at the same time, we don't know if a lot of this stuff will come to fruition or not. So time will ultimately tell if that truly happens or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our video, and this one has to do with basically the latest in the Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, and it seems though that the CMA has started to lean towards basically reversing the decision they had in April this year. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at what recently broke this week that seemed to indicate that we are heading towards Microsoft actually buying Activision Blizzard for good this time around. Now, this deal has sort of we've seen some ups and downs on it ever since it was announced back in January of 2022. There were questions of whether this deal should or shouldn't go through though. And then of course 2023 was very interesting to be exact. We saw the first roadblock back in April when the CMA decided to block the deal going forward, which kind of basically, for some, signaled believing that the deal was not going to go through. However, some analysts like Michael Patchard otherwise believe the deal is done and it will certainly go through and all. Then I think around June and all, we had the European Union basically giving the go-ahead, while other countries have recently given it as well, as they felt satisfied with the remedies and what Microsoft basically told them. This was very interesting, as many felt like this was a shot in the arm, not to mention it kind of sort of put Brexit a little bit in the spotlight, because you had a case where the European Union said yes, but the CMA, the regulators in the UK, said no. Then, of course, we had the FTC trial basically going on back in August, and the FTC judge ruled in favor of Microsoft and Activision, basically saying that, look, the deal does deserve scrutiny, it doesn't disagree with, but so far the FTC did not provide enough really reasons for why this deal should be blocked and everything like that. The fallout from that, to a certain degree, had the CMA basically talking with Microsoft again, and they both decided to hold off on taking this to a trial to see if they could sort of iron out a deal and all. On top of that, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard both decided to extend the deadline that was originally supposed to be in July to October and all. Well, there were reports that that the CMA was probably going to make a decision next week, but it seems that this latest report, which I later learned after reading, from tweets from like Floss Mueller or Florence Miller, the Floss patent situation. You might have seen them on, like Destin's YouTube videos and all, that seem to indicate that the CMA look like they're going to reverse the decision they made back in April. In an article from The Verge, this is what I had to say, quote, the UK, the CMA has given preliminary approval for Microsoft to proceed with its $69 billion Activision Blizzard deal. The CMA has originally blocked the acquisition over cloud gaming concerns, but Microsoft restructured the deal to transfer cloud gaming rights to current and new Activision Blizzard games to Ubisoft. In a memo to employees, Xbox Phil Spencer called it a positive development and a welcome indicator that our hard work is bringing us closer to our goal. The CMA considers that the restructuring deal made important changes to that subsidy address the concerns it set in our relations to the original transaction earlier this year. The CMA said in a press release, and opens the door to the deal being cleared. This is just a preliminary decision ahead of a final approval. The CMA said it's now open a consultation to gain third-party feedback on Microsoft's proposed remedy until October 6th. A final decision is expected before the extended October 18th deadline. The consultation period is meant to address a few remaining concerns that the CMA has with the deal. While the CMA has identified a limited residual, if I'm saying the name correctly, concerns with the new deal, Microsoft has put forward remedies which the CMA has provisionally concluded should address these issues. Continuing on, Microsoft is understandably optimistic about the decision. We presented solutions that we believe fully addresses the CMA's remaining concerns related to cloud gaming streaming, and we will continue to work towards earning the approval to a close prior to the October 18th deadline, said Microsoft's Vice Chair and President Brad Smith on X, formerly known as Twitter, though. Activision Blizzard is also pleased with the CMA's response. This is a significant milestone for the merger and a testament to our solution-oriented work with regulators, said Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick in a statement sent to employees. I remain optimistic as we continue the journey towards completion, and I am very grateful to each of you for your dedication and focus throughout the process. The UK is the final regulatory hurdle for Microsoft's giant deal. So it's not officially closed just yet or anything like that, but it sounds like if things hold and everything like that, and I believe most likely it will, it's sounding more and more likely this deal is officially going to close for good, to be exact, though. It will be very interesting if there's any last minute roadblock that could be thrown into this deal and all. So, I mean, there's always a possibility. We were kind of surprised, some were kind of surprised to see the CMA block the deal in April and everything like that. But I do believe this deal will most likely close, though. I'm still mixed on the idea of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, but I will say I'm not as hell-bent the way Lyndon Kahn of the FTC was, to be exact, though. So we'll see what happens as we get closer before that October 6th, when the CMA gives their official response, although they say they might do it earlier, though. But it does sound more and more likely this deal is more than likely going to go through. It's pretty much going to happen and everything like that. And hopefully, whatever the outcome is, although I'm leaning towards it's probably going through and all, that we can finally put this whole saga behind us and all. I mean, it was both interesting but kind of tiresome to see this roller coaster of things going back and forth with this deal and all. So I just wanted I personally do kind of want to see this end regardless of which outcome comes out of it, though. But judging by the recent response from the CMA, this sounds more and more likely that this deal is absolutely going to go through. What this means for the future for Activision Blizzard games, it's going to be very interesting to see how this is all going to play out and all. It will be very interesting to see what this means, if there's going to be a change in the structure in terms of how Call of Duty is being handled, to how Activision Blizzard in terms of the workforce and everything like that's going to be handled. So we'll have to wait and see what comes through this once this deal finally closes it all. But overall, judging by the response made by the CMA and all, it is definitely more than likely this deal is probably going to close and all, and Microsoft will own Activision Blizzard and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this person who works at Nintendo appearing up as one of the folks who helped with Baldur's Gate 3? Do you believe this is a sign that Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to Nintendo's platform? Do you think that this is a sign it could appear up on the Nintendo Switch successor, whatever that system may be? What are your thoughts about Unity basically backtracking to a certain degree following last week's backlash? Do you think this new change in policy will help them in a way? Do you think this will win back trust that some developers had after last week's debacle? Or do you think the damage has pretty much been done and all? What are your thoughts about this Xbox leak? Do you think some of this leak is very damning, though? Do you think some of this stuff will come to fruition from this leak, though? Or do you think that things have certainly changed, that you don't expect a lot of the stuff to come true or not, though? Do you think we could see a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo, a Dishonored 3, possibly another entry to Doom or anything like that? And what are your thoughts about the CMA's recent comments about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal? Do you think that this is a sign to indicate that the CMA will actually close and allow this deal to go through, or do you expect another unexpected roadblock that will pop up that will maybe drag this deal, drag this whole saga even further at all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put out. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, so you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.